I forgot where the button was.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Osquery Office Hours. Here we are, early December. At least here in Massachusetts, it's getting cold, so probably different where the rest of you are. But welcome to Office Hours. First section, announcements. Maybe you all noticed, maybe not, but we cut 5.1.0 this week. And I've slowly worked my way through various parts of that release process. The release exists. There are now release notes even. I think I probably need to update Chocolatey, though. Or Nick does. Someone needs to update Chocolatey, which will probably be me. And I pushed that to the Collide test posts. So, nothing, no problems yet. But I encourage people to test, and Trail of Bits, I encourage you to get your BPF clients to go and use it.
I remember that the GitHub folks were on here a month ago or so, having tested the some of the BPF changes.
Yeah, we saw someone from GitHub Security and also another team. I don't remember. I'm sorry. But yeah, they were able to test the changes and they were happy with it.
Great.
Did you, Seth, run into any 5.1 slowness issues on macOS? I noticed a message, I think, last week. I tried testing it. I haven't hit anything yet.
I'm pretty sure that what I'm hitting is an issue on my machine, totally unrelated to Osquery. I may not have been clear enough on Slack. So what I am finding happening is that on one of my machines, right now, because the machine probably has a very large uptime and is somewhat unhappy, all queries against the apps table hang. And this results in weird follow-on behavior because we don't run with the watchdog. So like what I'll find is if Osquery has a distributed query against the apps table, it will hang, but the scheduled queries will keep happening in the background. So there's sort of weird things in the way the threading works. But this is not an Osquery 5.0 bug. It's not a 5.1 bug. I tested it all the way back to 4 something. This is clearly my machine's acting a little fishy right now, and it's not our problem. I mean, it might be our problem, cool. But it's not our problem in a release blocking way.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I tried to kind of go through the process of testing on macOS and didn't hit anything. Is this a Monterey thing or?
This is a Mojave machine.
Mojave. Oh, okay.
So it's an old creaky machine.
Did you say the distributed queries run, and then there's also another thread that's running other scheduled queries, or?
It's somewhat the inverse. I believe distributed queries and scheduled queries happen in different threads effectively. So if you hang a distributed query, like if you manage to hang it without a watchdog running, the scheduled ones may keep running in the background.
I thought I remembered them being in the same thread.
No, they aren't. And actually, I'm for another reason, I saw the same issue. Yeah, I was looking into that. And yeah, Osquery actually spams a specific message about having to open a transient SQLite database to avoid contention between, well, 2 threads, basically. So there is the scheduler trying to access the SQLite database and at the same time the distributed. And you can see, well, if you run Osquery with verbose and you have a scheduled query and you have a distributed query, you can see that if you manage to run a distributed query at the same time a scheduled query is running. So I don't know, for instance, you put a select star from file where directories, yeah, many files in a scheduled query, then try a simple query on top of it.
That must have changed because I remember in version 3.x, they were all in the same thread.
I think that it was anyway on a different thread. I see that there has been a change about these SQLite transient database, because previously there was a lock that was was taken by both threads. I'm not sure exactly what was the issue. I have to find again the pull request and read about it. But yeah, I think it was to avoid contention, but yeah, might have given other problems then.
Yeah, kind of weird. Oh, I've also got some other really weird stuff I've been seeing on Windows that I haven't isolated yet. But if I run many launcher and Osquery instances, some of them don't work, as if there's contention over like a registry handle somewhere. But I haven't tracked that down. So just as a like footnote for, I don't know if anyone else has seen that. But there's some contention somewhere, and I don't even know if it's in launcher or Osquery or what.
The question, maybe define doesn't work because, well, if they obviously are using, trying to access to the same files, that for sure is a problem, because on Windows you have exclusive file locking, which I think it's basically the default. And you normally have to require that the lock can be shared between multiple processes. So yeah, again, if Osquery is accessing, two Osquery instances are accessing the same file, you can have errors from one of the two.
Would that work on like a file table or some like hash table kind of thing?
You mean
like they've got different databases, so they shouldn't have a database contention issue. So there's like, what else would they book into?
Accessing files. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure if, I don't know. I'm not sure how we are opening those files. If we are somehow exclusively locking them, or
I'll take a look. It's an interesting thread to pull on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyhow, 5.1 is out. Please test it.
Cool. We can push that to Orbit Edge channel, which I think almost no one is using, but I can just see how it works on a couple of hosts. Thanks for doing all that work, Steph.
Sure. Pass to us mostly made it super easy.
Thank you, everyone who contributed to making that easy. I know it wasn't me. Hey, I'm excited to announce that Charvel's joined the team at Fleet. He's our first dedicated full-time Osquery engineer. I think, most of you in the call know Charvel. I think there's some new folks. Anyway, for anyone who doesn't know, Charvel's been working on Osquery on and off since 2015, Charvel, or 2016?
Yeah, 2015. That's a long time. Glad to be still around Osquery and glad to be still contributing, and yeah, glad to join forces.
Nice,
so
congrats.
it's my hope that I know that there's been a lot of stuff that could use code review, core stuff that needs to move forward, and all sorts of things that could use some support. And now we've got Charvel, who will have much more time than I do for contributing towards these things, and super glad to have him, and to continue to be working with all of y'all.
Congratulations. From where I say you're sort of moving from like bucket A to bucket B, but I think well enough of both. So, sounds great. Zach, I do have a question. Your implication here is that more of Charvel's time is available for Osquery core work, and that, probably that's driven a little bit by what Fleet's priorities are, but also there's a little bit of making Osquery better probably benefits you. So there's something there to just ponder what makes sense, and you've got a pretty good sense of it anyhow.
Yes, I think that's completely right. And I know that Charvel has a number of things that are on his mind in terms of improving the stability of core Osquery, just like helping get code reviews done on things that have been sitting around. And we're definitely going to be looking for a balance between things that Fleet and our users and customers want to take advantage of in Osquery, and also just trying to keep the Osquery core moving forward and as stable as we can, improve testing, packaging, and I think please expect to hear from probably mostly from Charvel going forward about things that we're thinking of and of improving.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Any other announcements? Okay. Next section, questions, issues, PRs people want to discuss. I hear maybe there's some people here with some questions.
I'm just here to stay in tune with things since I haven't been active on Osquery for a while.
I hear a rumor, Alex,
Really?
that there are some people that say AT&T disrecommends running Osquery, but all of their linked documentation does not say this. And I was curious what you thought of that.
After I left, they switched to Sentinel-1 as far as I know. So yeah.
Not particularly strong as an anti-recommendation goes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just saying, don't run that old agent, run a new agent. I don't know.
Okay, thanks. Roxana, Nick, either of you have questions for the crowd?
Yeah, I have been trying. I installed it previously Osquery, and it was working fine. So I wanted to put it in a container. So I have a lot of machine learning stuff as well in my PC. So I wanted to have it isolated, and I couldn't. I really couldn't put it in a Docker container that. The first time it ran correctly, and the second time, I don't know if there are clashes with the C++, CMake, Cache, or something that it doesn't compile again the second time. So I don't know if you can help me in some way, if any of you have a Docker that execute correctly and can be shared, or give me any recommendation.
What is the exact error?
What are you trying to do?
What I'm trying to do is something very simple. So I just wanted, so for me it's annoying in doing all my experiments in machine learning that sometimes I forget where I have left my files and everything. So I want to create just a file, a folder for inputs and a folder for outputs. And having Osquery running all the time, that in a way that I can know what was the process that was executing and created any of the files in the output file, and what were the configuration file from the input input folder that I was being using. So it is just that this is the only thing that I would like to really do. But for doing that, I wanted to have it all this in a container because it's more easier for me to have it put it as a service in the other Docker compose that I have. So every time that something is executing, I can be monitoring the inputs and outputs of my executions.
I guess we're talking about file integrity monitoring to generate file events.
Yeah, mainly that.
So as far as I know, there is no support for running this within a container because the mount namespace is different than the one we may try to monitor.
Well, can't you? How does it work if you run containers as like? Isn't there an option to run containers with like root permissions or system permissions?
I think so.
I'm not really sure, however, how it works with. I guess we're talking about iNotify.
I don't know. I mean, Roxana, you mentioned like CMake problems, and I don't totally like. Are you building Osquery? Are you building an extension?
No, I just was building the Osquery to put it inside my containers. Then
Would it make more sense to use the Linux distributions? We distribute a Linux binary.
or maybe, yeah. I haven't. What it is exactly?
It should be linked up the GitHub releases
In the-
pages.
Yeah,
Probably-
Roxana, you can go to osquery.io/downloads, and there will be a Osquery, just a tar GZ archive that includes the Osquery binary. And that would be my recommendation if you just want a pre-built Linux binary and you don't want like a deb or RPM package.
Yeah.
So 2 caveats about that. One of them is that is linked against the GNU libc, which I believe is not compatible with Alpine. I do not believe Osquery is Alpine compatible right now. So any containers you would want to run it in would need to be based in something with glibc.
It's
Something
probably
with-
not supported, but we saw people installing glibc on Alpine Linux to run Osquery, and it worked. But it's not officially supported, I guess.
I see.
And the other caveat is that the tarball, the targz, is an unstripped binary. So if you're using it, you probably want to strip it yourself. And it should go from about 200 megs to 50 megs or so.
Okay.
Oh, that explains why the Docker images I've been publishing are so big.
There's a ticket
huge.
somewhere. We should fix the builds to kick that out as a stripped binary. Sorry to surprise you, Zach.
Well,
It's not really a big deal because I'm just publishing these images for testing purposes. So it's Docker, Osquery/Osquery, and if you want to try various Osquery versions on various platforms, really just CentOS, Debian, and Ubuntu, then the images are there, but they are all a couple hundred megabytes. So if we can make them smaller, that'd be cool.
Yeah, just strip them. I've done a lot of work shrinking Docker containers, so we can talk. I forget if I've looked at these ones recently. I can stare at them.
Yeah, I think we have an
it's
issue.
not a big deal because really people are just using these for testing purposes. Sorry, go ahead, Sharba.
Yeah, I think like when we moved to the new packaging, I think we dropped the ball on this, and we should pick this up and fix it.
Yeah, we dropped it on 5.0, but
Yeah.
okay. So let's see. Roxana, that's probably your
Thanks.
question. I would definitely recommend playing with pre-built binaries, and you will likely run into future questions too. But not compiling Osquery will make your life simpler.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. I will download it and basically use it directly in my containers and see how it goes and let you know.
Nick, you unmuted. I don't know if that means you're getting ready to ask something or.
No, you guys had just asked if I had anything. I just want to say, hey, my name's Nick. I'm new with the Trail of Bits team,
Ah, welcome.
so I'm lurking and just listening.
Welcome
And
aboard.
I will not commit any acts of help here. But really glad this is being done because it's a great service.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thanks
And,
so much.
Kelvin, welcome as well. Looks like you're just joining. So any other community questions? If not, we can move off to agenda land. So let's see, I mentioned I saw some weird things. We talked about them. The big thing probably we have is that we're aiming to get a 5.20 release out somewhere, I don't know, in the next 2 weeks. And I believe the only thing 5.20 is blocked on is us attempting to get that giant M1 PR reviewed. That's all I got.
Yeah, we have a couple of smaller pull requests. Maybe if anyone is interested, we have BPF support for CentOS 7.6 with kernels 3.10.
Does this drop CentOS 6?
No, it adds support for it, for BPF.
Excuse me, add support. I understand now.
BPF support to that old kernel.
I kind of, I hear this rumor that maybe we have to drop CentOS 6 support to get NF tables support. So
yeah, well, BPF support is for CentOS 7.6. CentOS 6, yeah, I would probably drop it soon. Maybe the next time we work on the Osquery chain, we can drop it.
Put the announcement out now.
Yeah.
Give people a heads up.
Yeah, I mean, it is end of life in theory.
Since a year, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess CentOS 7 point something will also be end of life in maybe a year and something.
Yeah, it's apparently there's a Red Hat release for SAP solution, SAP solution, and it's 7.6. It's still like valid up to 2022. I think mid 2022, but yeah.
Right. Now, CentOS, should we start talking about Rocky Linux? It is in theory the spiritual successor to CentOS.
do you think we have to do anything to think about it? Or do you think it'll just work?
I think it will just work. But we can maybe look into it a little bit better and decide whether it is a platform we want to put in the, on the website as an official supported distro. Like, I mean, we will support.
Unless the CI, the problem. Yeah, there's the issue with the CI mainly, I believe, which.
Well, we don't have on the CI.
Sorry.
We do support CentOS, but we don't have it on the CI.
I would be inclined to ignore it. I guess I feel like support falls into kind of a couple of tiers for me, and I don't think we formalize this very well. One of them is like, we think that this will run, right? Like if you have a glibc, we think it will run. And I think Rocky Linux probably falls into that boat, right? If it's a successor to CentOS, it's fundamentally similar to RHEL and Fedora in some way, right? It will probably just run.
Yeah, I guess I used the wrong term. We need a reference distribution that has the oldest glibc version we want to support. And historically, it has always been CentOS. Right now, it is CentOS 6. So the next one would be CentOS 7, but when that is out of the support, we will have to change that reference distribution to something else.
Yeah, well, solve that problem later.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, CentOS 7, so the last version of CentOS 7 will go out in 2024. So there are still 3 years.
and I don't know if we'd move to Ubuntu,
unfortunately,
for a
but
reference, like, or would we keep a reference on both RPM and? So I don't know. I just feel like there's this can of worms of like, we think it'll run, but we start getting into this long tail of do all the tables work the way you expect them to, and like the IP tables one is bothering me right now. But like we've run into RPM tables issues where we had to upgrade the RPM library to handle the newer SQLite database formats. So we're just going to see things like that on these weird long tails, and I think it's very hard to talk about like what fully supporting a platform means when we don't have a very rich set of integration tests that runs across all our hosts.
Maybe it's time for an LFS version of Osquery that's charged.
What does that mean here?
Well, you have Osquery that's keeps more recent stuff, but for the long tail stuff like CentOS 6 and CentOS 7, that takes man hours to keep it up, right? And people might want to pay for that.
So the problem I think we have, and I don't know, maybe you or Zach have interesting input there, right? Is that so something like CentOS 6? The only reason I've heard that we might stop working on CentOS 6 is that if we move to supporting the newer IP tables formats, then I don't know if there's library compatibility there. But I also don't know if that's an inherent problem or if we would end up with a different table name or a table name that did something dynamic at runtime. I don't know. I'm probably not the one that would write that code. So I don't know if that would really be kind of a reason. So I think probably what we end up with is these things where to support something new, eventually we drop support, or maybe it just stops working completely, right? Like maybe it'll work, but the RPM table won't work because we just have to pull in a newer library. So whether you imagined a long-term support option that was, well, here's someone who's being paid and is building this to work with this older set of libraries, so you have that long-term support option. I don't know if there's value there. I don't know if there are buyers. I would imagine Trail of Bits and Zach have more visibility into that. Most of the Collide customers tend to be in the latest releases. We don't really have that kind of long tail.
There are a couple of problems we are going to encounter. So yeah, of course, there's some tax in hours in trying to maintain the platform itself. But other problems is the features we can enable in new libraries. Other problems, for example, if we have libraries that talk to services, it is extremely hard. Unless the protocol has some kind of versioning, it is hard to have a recent feature that tries to talk to a really old version of a daemon. And yeah, also formats. Let's say that maybe RPM has a new breaking change. How do we manage to keep supporting the old packages while also, having support for the latest and greatest RPM release? So yeah, even without having a specific issue with, even if we didn't have any kind of specific issue with IP tables, I think it is still good to drop it. It is ill, so.
IP tables is just the example I have at hand.
Yeah, I was just thinking of how much it costs for us to, in at least hours and man hours, and how much testing it's going to get if it's on these old releases that none of us are using.
Another big issue that I just remembered about, mostly because Stefano was looking into it, is kernel headers. We have to include them in the Osquery toolchain. Sometimes the changes between one kernel and the other are pretty big. So that's not really ideal and could cause problems.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason also why we want to update the tool chain. So currently there is sort of an issue which so we are using a too recent version, let's say, of kernel headers. We are targeting like version 4.07. Although the libc we use is for CentOS 6, which normally has like kernel version 2.6 something. So I'm not entirely sure if it's luck or what, but I mean, there are structures for audit, for perf, for any various things that come from the kernel itself that between 2.6 and 4.07 definitely changed. Somehow we don't use them, or maybe libaudit is currently covering us there, but still the idea is that we should use basically the same kernel headers we use on the minimum version distribution we want to support, and then where necessary, where we have to support different version of structures, we have to create those different version of structures inside the query, so we do not have to depend on kernel headers, basically. But yeah, it's still important to have the same version, because in other cases, newer kernel using like the size of the structure or other things can still support older structures because they are smaller, and so yeah, things will work fine, but they won't work fine at the opposite side. So if an older kernel receives a bigger, well, not always, but yeah, if an older kernel receives a bigger structure, or you are trying to read a bigger structure, so yeah. And so this is a reason to update the toolchain, but yeah, another reason to drop CentOS 6 is also it makes it very, it takes quite a while when we have to update libraries, because the build system tooling there, like autoconf, is really old, so you have to compile newer versions of autoconf, automake, and then some things that break. So yeah, it's time consuming.
Well, I would be down for dropping CentOS 6 support. Curious if Zach's got visibility into his customer base, but I think from our perspective, it would be fine.
We don't maintain analytics about the device types that our customers or users use with Fleet, and personally, I'm fine with dropping support for anything that's been dropped by its vendor. And I totally relate to Alex's points about the cost to the project, and I think potentially long-term support for anyone who needs it could be good business for Cello Bits, or anyone else who wants to get into the consulting space, if there are folks out there who need that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had any analytics, but I would hope that you do talk to some of your customers, and you might know if someone had a very large CentOS fleet.
Not aware of anyone back to CentOS 6. I think it's all 7 and 8 as far as I know of folks who I'm aware of.
Here's a question. So you recently worked on the M1 compilation for the third-party dependencies. Say you want to start supporting ARM on Linux, maybe AWS.
We do.
We do. What is that base image for glibc? It's not
That's
CentOS 6, right?
Yeah, we are using Ubuntu 16, if you're correct, 16.04, and it's, I think, glibc 2.23.
Cool.
Yeah,
You
we
might have had a theoretical question that I cut you off on.
No, that's good. I was surprised. I didn't know it was already there. That's good.
So we didn't go with CentOS as there are no official images there.
Yep.
They are from third parties.
Awesome.
But it should work anyway.
That Linux ARM work was done by Artemis, is that right?
No, Artemis. Oh, Artemis was the first person. So Artemis did some honey. I think Artemis was working for Honeycomb. Maybe, do I have that right?
Yeah, as far as I know, it was Artemis and then Liz from Honeycomb.
Yeah. So Honeycomb contributed some code, and AWS contributed some time and effort around build stuff and just nudging, because one of their large customers really wanted Graviton support.
Nice.
And I know that that large customer is mostly using it internally. It's not an external product at all. And I assume Honeycomb just uses it for their own security and analytics on their servers, because they're not going to sell anything that's Osquery based. And I hear a vendor is supporting the M1 work, and we may see a blog post soon. So yay people who help make those things happen.
Yes. I mean, what a lot of work. I see all those MRs for the M1 work. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty big. We are really happy how it turned out, especially because we were able to also provide a lot of the documentation was missing, and we finally fixed the problem. So for each library, you now have a README with the steps we had to undertake to build it under CentOS 6. Don't read it because it is horrible.
So you're saying that we'll have to redo it all when we drop CentOS 6 support?
No, it's we don't really have to redo it everything from scratch. When we drop CentOS 6, we will just keep updating the new libraries as they are released, but instead of CentOS 6, we just use a more recent platform.
Mm-hmm. So the other item on this agenda here is non-blocking socket support for BPF sockets tables.
Yeah, so we recently had the support for non-blocking sockets to the audit-based socket events table, but we didn't mirror this functionality in the BPF tables. So if for any reason you have a non-blocking socket, it will not show up in the table at all.
Okay. Doesn't sound good. Is there a fix for this?
Not yet. I mean, I know it was interesting to have it, but it is still good to propose it, and if anyone is against it, then we can maybe see what's wrong with it.
Is there any reason someone would be against fixing this?
No, but I still follow the procedure.
Okay, that's fair. Seems like a great idea to me.
And we'll make it configurable, like with audit. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't recall if you mentioned if we did the same thing on the audit side. So
yeah.
Great. PR is welcome. That's everything. I'll call this a little bit early, but I don't know if anyone has any other topics. Okay. Nice to see everyone, and talk to you all online.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.